Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGeek webinar series, our endeavor to empower techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key to enhance our skills and grow us as professionals. With this principle in mind, we have initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give you all a crisp insight of various domains. The topic of today's session is Great Product Innovation Does Not Happen by Just Chance or Luck. There is a strategy to it. Our guest speaker today is Mr. Thiagarajan M., Innovation Leader at Intuit. Rajan is Innovation Leader at Intuit, known for his approach towards delivering measurable results using lean experimentation-driven approach. He coaches team in doing product innovation from grassroots at Intuit. He has built product teams that release globally acclaimed mobile apps and software. He is also the winner of Global Mobile Monday Peer Award 2008, USID User Choice Award 09. He has built a reputation as mobile industry expert and networker through curation on MOMOB. So without further delay, I introduce you all to our guest speaker. Over to you, Mr. Thiagarajan.
Thank you for joining the webinar. Let's jump into the presentation. We all know the importance of product innovation for India. If India has to make a leap into the next era of IT growth, investing and producing some product innovation is very, very critical. Now, building software product to specification is no means an easy task, but in India as a country, we have earned a repute across the global peers. Building software to spec is, like I said, not very easy, but then building the software spec and selling it, scaling it as a product is an order of magnitude more difficult. And this is what brings a lot of industry practitioners in the product space together as volunteers to NASSCOM product conclave, so that they can put together a 2-day of conference where they bring in the best minds together to talk about what's the right way to approach product innovation. Now, I'm a NASSCOM product volunteer, and I've been a volunteer for the last 3 years, and this year I'm working as a volunteer for the NASSCOM NPC marketing sub-team. And what I would like to do is I'd like to share some of my thoughts, observation on getting product innovations out based on my experience as volunteer as well as my past experience in founding 2 startups and my current work where I am the innovation leader at Intuit. So before we get started on product innovation, it is always a challenge to define or get our thoughts around this nebulous term called innovation. So what is innovation? To anchor our definition, I'd share a few thoughts. Innovation starts with something different. It has to be very different from what we are doing traditionally or what we are trained to do. And when we start with something different and when it goes to a place where it has deep impact, that's what it is called as innovation. Now, while we are at definitions, I think it's also important to sort of share notes on what do we mean by software products. Software products is not alone just the development of software, but owning the intellectual property rights to it so that you could sell, resell the software product that's been developed. So innovation, software products. The thing about the product innovation is that we are dealing with something that we are not very aware of as to what we are headed towards. So what I mean by that is, normally when we sort of build a product, we are trying to give a solution to someone, but we think that the solution is not defined, but it's really the problem itself is also not defined. So we are very uncertain about the problem that we are trying to address. The solution, like I said, we are already uncertain of. So we are looking at 2 moving targets. Already, sort of working on just 1 moving target is difficult, but here we are looking at 2 moving targets: problem unknown, solution unknown. But then, we are also not very sure if it is the right team to build the product that has been envisioned. And last but not the least, Now, we also don't know whether the impact will happen. Remember, I said innovation is when it creates a deep impact. But on a product innovation, we are not sure when we start out that the impact will happen for customers, for stakeholders, shareholders, employees, and society at large. So how do we handle this unknown or uncertainty? That's where we refer to the concept called risk. Risk is nothing but the twin brother of uncertainty, the other side of the coin for uncertainty. It's just a different way of referencing. When we are uncertain, we say that it's a risk. And when it comes to product development, there are many risks that come into play. The first risk is the technology risk. We have to look at what we are trying to build and ask ourselves this question: given the state of the art, can it even be built? What is the other element? The other element is, we figured out, we know how it can be built with the current state-of-the-art technology, but we'll have to prioritize as to what use case should be built first. What should be the feature that should be presented first? What are the must-haves? What are the nice-to-haves, and so on and so forth? The next element or category could be that this is all is fine. Are we just dreaming in the air? Together as a team, can we even get this thing done? And that's what is called as the execution risk. Last but not the least, I would say the most important thing of all is the customer risk. Now, what this means is the product or the idea that you're working on, will the customer even care about it? Will he use it? Will he pay for it? And once he has used it, will he even recommend it to his other friends? Now, if we were to sort of aggregate this a little bit broadly, then we can also call the market risk, which is the aggregated customer risk, which is to say that are there enough number of customers who are going to use it, who are going to pay for it, and recommend it, so that the whole effort that you put together to make a product innovation happen becomes meaningful. While we are faced with these uncertainties, there are certain laws of life which which grounds us, and one of them is that resources are always limited. To an entrepreneur who is working in a startup or a product innovator working in a large company, what's limited? Your time is limited. You may have just a specific chunk of time available to you that you have committed to yourself or committed to another person, saying that this is when I would want to do the product innovation. And it could be 18 months, it could be 36 months, it could be as short as 6 months. But the point is that it is a limited time. The other element is money, and this is where a lot of entrepreneurs, innovators, sort of gripe about, saying that we don't have enough money to get the product innovation out. It is the most limited resource. The third thing is your energy. While we all get very passionate about when we are building on one particular idea, but over a period of time, jadedness starts setting, and you become tired. You've been running for a very long time. So there is a very we don't recognize it, but there is a limited amount of time, limited amount of energy that we have, after which fatigue sets in. The other aspect to the energy part is those who are supporting you in terms of money, or even in terms of giving you moral support, or even sort of sponsoring you for the work that you're doing. Their patience may also get run out. So these are different kinds of resources that are available, but all of them run out at one point in time or the other. Now, given this, the order in which we approach the risks, the uncertainty, becomes very, very important, and that matters a lot. So what do we do? In 99% of the case, we address these risks in the way I had ordered them in the slide. We first work on the technology risk, because that's what we are very excited about. Then we work on the product risk, which is we debate about what features to put, what to remove. And I have this alpha beta cycle, and we have these endless debates of what should go in there. And then sometimes we even worry about when we get into these debates and we see work not progressing fast enough, and we worry about are we even executing properly what we have identified. And after all of this is done, we push out an alpha, we push out a beta, and then it reaches the hands of the customer, and that's when reality sets in, and we start trying to figure out whether whatever has been built is something that the customer wants or not. But if you look at the purple tab, while we are doing all of this, trying to remove technology risk, product risk, execution risk, so almost run out of all the limited resources we had at our hand. By the time we came to eliminating the customer risk, we are run out of either time, energy, or patience. And this is where all products, most of them fail. So what could be a workable approach? The workable approach that I'd like to propose in the table is that address the customer risk first, and also broaden it to market risk. So what do I mean by address customer risk? It is essentially that you go out into the market and ask your potential customers as to whether they care about the problem or the idea that you have in hand. If they don't, then go and talk to another set of people. And after having spoken to a lot of them, if they don't, then sort of come back and take that feedback and work on that idea. Then also broaden it to a larger sort of aspect in the market risk. Try to find out if somebody says yes, they care about the problem that you're working on. Are they enough number of people? Do you have a large enough market? So the important element being suggested is that keep the customer at the center, because that's the only fastest way to reach to the product market fit. So a good proxy to a product innovation is that it has reached a product market fit, and you want to reach there fastest. So I want to plot this product market space in an exact, in a 3-grid space, and talk about how typically it works. So you work with some product that applies to a certain market, but it may not be at the most optimal product market fit. You want to sort of work on changing your product or changing your market, which means talking to different customers, changing the features almost in an iterative fashion, so that you could optimize or maximize on the product market fitness. So the first element or the strategy is reach your product market fit before you run out. And how do you do that? This is where the principles of customer development comes in place. Customer development says that all your answers lie outside the building, so go out, talk to customer as soon as possible, and eliminate those risks as fast as you can. Customer development, another way to sort of think about them is run lean experiments, and I'll come to now what this means in a bit. There are a few principles involved in customer development and lean experiments. So the first one of them are whatever you are currently thinking right now, you think that it's that's like a statement, it's a theorem in its own, but these are at best your assumptions or your guesses. And if you treat every statement that you make as assumption and guess, now then you get a good foundation to start working on. All your answers lie outside the building. Product innovators always love to sit inside the building, debate, brainstorm, and even sort of tweak what they are working on. But most of the unknowns are converted into knowns only when you go outside the building. Now, once you have these guesses, the important thing, like we said, is to turn into a known, into facts, and use experiments with customers to go ahead and do this. Incorporate the learning that you have. After you've spoken to a customer, he's given feedback, he cares about the product, he cares about the problem, he doesn't care about the solution, or he cares a certain element of the solution. Take that learning and create another experiment, and sort of go on iterating with this. Now move through this loop of experimentation really, really quickly and fast. So this is where a concept of a minimum viable product really helps. Just build absolutely minimum necessary that is needed for you to uncover an assumption around a customer. Now build uncomfortably small prototypes. If you're not uncomfortable with the prototypes that you have created, then you have perhaps invested too much into the development. Take these prototypes and show it to customers, and customers will then react to it based on whether they're interested in the problem, they are interested in the solution, maybe they are interested in the solution, not in the problem, and take that learning and iterate further. So you want to go through this ideas, build, measure, learn loop really, really fast till you uncover all your unknowns about your customers as soon as you can. So this is very well documented across the world, and two main proponents for this was Steve Blank and Eric Ries, and they've captured in detail of how you go about doing this in their books, in their blogs, in their websites. I'd recommend those who would like to learn more about this to go to this website. Also watch this video of Steve Blank where he says what's the biggest pain in the existing way product development works. Now let me talk about another element of great product innovation. Some of the biggest product success in the history of products have happened because they were propagated through word of mouth. So it is not just important that you discover the problems and eliminate the customer risk, but also it is important for you to leverage the customer themselves to talk about your solution. Now with being customer centric, you've already nailed the problem. You've understood what their problem is. But now how do you get them to talk about it? And this is where it is important for you to design a solution that can delight the customer. When you have designed a solution that that delivers on releasing a particular pain point that a customer has, now they go gaga over it and they talk to all people that they can. And when designing the solution, you have to keep in mind that you have an experience, that you design an experience such that the user of the solution does not even feel that he's using it. It should be that delightful. And that's when you will see word of mouth kick in. So in summary, uncover a deep unmet problem for customer that your product can solve. Number one, which is eliminate customer risk. Number two, design a solution in such a way that they don't even feel that they're using it, and they get so delighted that they talk about this to other customers, other users, other friends of theirs. So we talked about this, and at very broad level, in terms of detail, there are a couple of sessions in the NASSCOM product conclave that has double-clicked on some of these topics and have gone ahead and sort of covered as to how exactly you do it. And I've taken a screenshot from the product conclave agenda page. I've circled some of these interesting sessions. So if you look at the need and process of pivoting, this is one session where if you go to a customer and you've done your experiments and you figure out that you're completely way off, then how do you address that change, and how do you sort of move from that aspect to another aspect of building the product? Do you completely drop everything? Under what condition do you drop everything? These are some of the questions that the session called the need and process and impact of pivoting will address. How do you sort of get your first 100,000 customers? How do you build solutions that wow them so much that a viral element is baked in? What should you do so that people are going to talk about your products to others? This is what will be covered in getting your first 100,000 customer session. The third element about how do you build kick-ass user experience, especially given you're a lone entrepreneur or you're a product entrepreneur in a large company. This is going to be covered in UX for startup session. More details are available at productconclave.in, and I suggest that a lot of the that we talked about for you. I suggest you take a look at the website on how these are implemented by other practitioners in India and across the globe. Yeah. So with that, I think I come to a close of my session. I'm reachable on twitter.com/mtrajan and also on the hashtag NASSCOMPC, and I think I'm happy to take any questions.
Well, thanks, Mr. Rajan. I have assigned you a few questions. You can read it in the questions pane.
Okay. Let me open them right now. What are the strategies to develop an innovative customer-centric application? This is asked by Shushant, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, let me just maximize the window. Yeah, so about an innovative customer-centric application, I think one of the most important element of a customer-centric application is to find, is to know about the customer more than he knows about himself. And this aspect comes when you observe the customer and not just talk to him and interview him. In other words, it's gaining empathy of the customer. And once you gain the empathy of the customer, it gives you insights into what could be the right approach to build an innovative solution. I'd like to take an example, and this example does not necessarily belong to software products. This comes from the consumer industry of how an innovative solution was built, and this is about soap powder. And there was customer centricity there. Back in the 70s or the 80s, most of the soap companies, the soap washing powder companies, they're all working on building or sort of manufacturing soap powder which could create white clothes, and each of them are competing on the fact that they could create more whiter clothes than the other. Now at P&G, some of the people who are involved in the R&D of coming up with new products, they went and observed some customers, and they asked them, what do they care about? And the customers told, yeah, I like white clothes, so I'd like you to come up with a formula or a solution where I can get even whiter clothes. But when they were sort of observing these customers and he was talking to them, they realized that while he was giving the answer and he was taking out his clothes from the washing machine, he took it and he smelled his clothes. And that gave them this realization that, not only do they care about white clothes, they also care about the smell of the clothes. So they went back and then they came up with another product which said that not only will make your white clothes white, but will also make your clothes smell really better. Now this insight would have not come if they had not went and observed the customer, and if they did not immerse themselves into the customer's environment and gain the empathy of the customer. So what are the so that is what I would suggest as to what are the strategies. is to gain customer empathy, immerse yourself into his environment, look for those insights and observations which which can point you to the problem that they may not articulate, but they care about, and you could gather that insight and you can build a solution around that. Okay, let's move to the next question. Okay, this next one is, please tell me about the clusterization of innovative behavior during strategy for innovation of products. I request some more clarification on this question. If the person who had asked, Dhananjay, could send some more clarification on this. Moving on for now. What are the parameters of a good product? Now, this is an interesting question. I think in terms of parameters, there are various. I think you're asking about what are the metrics of success for a good product. Now, depending on what category it is in, we could drop different kinds of metrics in terms of the daily active use, in terms of the number of product units that have been sold, or things of that kind. One general metric that I've found useful is the concept of called as Net Promoter Score. To the user of a product, if we ask him on a scale of 1 to 10, how would he recommend this product to some of his other friends? And if the user answers somewhere close to 8, 9, or 10, I think that's a very good indicator of how delighted that particular customer was with the product, and that I would say is a good way to sort of judge how good a product was. Hope that answers your question. This next question is from Shailesh Bhatt. He asked what are the various ways working on getting customer risk surveyed. So I want to bring up an important point here, since you mentioned surveys. See, remember when I spoke about product innovation in my earlier slide, I mentioned that we are looking at two moving targets. One is problem is unknown, solution is unknown. And normally, we use survey as a mechanism when problem is known and and solution is unknown. And survey then helps you to sort of, in a very point blank way, understand what is the right solution for the problem that is defined. Now, given we are having two moving targets, a survey is not really the best method to understand the customer risk. What I would recommend is that you identify your target customer, target beneficiary, and go have an interview with him and ask him about what does he do around a specific problem that your product is trying to solve, and how does he currently address it? Does he really care about the problem, and so on and so forth. Now, if a product is a web product, it may have a different approach. If it is an enterprise product, it may have a different approach. For a mobile product, it may have a different approach. In the case of a web, you could arguably set up a landing page and maybe put a buy button, or articulate the value proposition of your product, and then ask people to sort of respond to it by sending some traffic to the landing page. In case of mobile, you could launch a quick application and sort of iterate it over on it over multiple weeks. In case of enterprise software, you set up meetings with the customer, you go talk to them. The other element is, you really immerse yourself into the customer environment. So not only are you interviewing, referring to my previous example, you also observe the customer on what he does, when he does certain tasks related to the problem area of your product. Now, these would be some of the ways that I would suggest to eliminate the unknowns around the customer. When I said customer risk, what I really meant is, does the customer really even have the pain point that you think he has? Right? So talking to them, observing them is surely the way to go forward. Survey may not be that much effective. Hopefully that addresses your question, Shailesh. Okay, let's look at the next one. Is the NASSCOM conference open to all to attend? Can you share details? Yes, it is open to all to attend. The endeavor has been to bring in out of the 800 delegates, at least 500 product startups, so that they can get the maximum benefit of it. But everyone is welcome to attend. The details of this is present in the website productconclave.in. In my last but previous slide, I've also shown the URL for the Product Conclave website. You should be able to find more details there. Okay, let's look at the next question. How to plan for a product if similar products are already available in the market? Yeah, that's an interesting question. In many cases, you would see that new products come when there are so many other existing products available already in the market. What I would say is that a presence of a product in the market, could indicate two things. One, that there seems to be a set of people who care about a certain problem that this particular product is solving. So it certainly has validated that the problem exists. But what you might find is what the other products do not do a good job is at solving them well. So when you sort of understand your customer and sort of go and talk to them about the solution that you are proposing, before that you may want to understand what is the problem that they are having with the current solution, right? And then start from there and try to solve that aspect, and then validate that that indeed is a solution that the customer of that product category is interested in, and that way you will be able to sort of solve the problem better than the other products in the market. So this was a question asked by Divya Prakash. Hope I answered that question. So financial problems hinder product development. Are there any viable solution that entrepreneurs can adopt? So the whole aspect of eliminate the customer risk first is really to address the point that you mentioned about financial problems. So if you take the approach of building a prototype or building a certain alpha launch, if it is going to take 6 months, then you have to finance for that product development for about 6 months, whatever team size that you are having. But instead, if you focused on the first 4 or 8 weeks in just running the customer development life cycle, and in the parallel building a very, very basic rudimentary version of the product, you would find that you have a lot more answers, and you are able to sort of then on make your projections really very well, and hence also convince those who can potentially finance you. So the customer first approach will help you potentially sort of not need a lot of finance before you have a certain certainty about the problem, the customer, the solution that you are trying to solve with your product. The next question is asked by Prasad Akula. He asks, when we have no chance to meet customers, then how can we go about this loop? Now, that's again a very interesting question. In certain cases, like I mentioned earlier, in the case of web development or in case of a mobile app development, you may want to think about it slightly differently. And the example that I suggested was of maybe setting up a landing page where you could sort of articulate the value proposition of your product and sort of have some call to action slapped to it, and then drive some traffic to this landing page and see how people are going to react. Now, if people came to your landing page but did not do pretty much anything else apart from that, then yeah, I mean, people seem to care about the problem, but they don't care about the solution that you are proposing in terms of your value proposition. But if nobody, even after the traffic campaign that you did, now if people showed up, then it means people are not even interested in the problem that you have. So you may want to rethink about many elements of your idea. So these are this is basically a tactic, a trick, maybe an old one, and maybe as old as 4 or 5 years old. But this is one way to sort of reach out to customer and validate with them if you're not physically geographically close to them. Prasad, hopefully that addresses the question that you asked. Okay, let's go to the next one. Can you please tell me, is it a good idea to build a product only with one technology, looking into the cost aspect of building the product, or is it better to take risk and create a product with multiple technology embedded in it? See, again, it might sound like a repeat, but the point I'm trying to make is that if you are able to talk with customer, understand their environment, you will be able to sort of better answer this question. Let's say that you're working on an enterprise product and you've made a choice of doing deploy, because you like Ruby on Rails and you wanted to go ahead with this. And you may even have built the product, or you may say that I want to make it a broad architecture and I want to keep it Ruby on Rails, and also want to create a service-oriented architecture and allow another technology stack to run parallelly. Now these could be the approach, and based on what discussions you have in the team, you may take one approach to go forward. Now this again might be your best educated guess of what the customer might be interested in or looking at. Instead, if you went to the enterprise customer for whom you are building the product and spoke to them, you might even be surprised that they are a company which only runs on Java stack. In which case, your element of what technology stack to build is also getting sort of validated on, and it is very different from the initial guess that you made. So my recommendation would be that you make the technology choices of what stack to build a little later, and you will be able to make a much informed decision there. I'm a firm believer, this is a question from Mudit Mathur. I'm a firm believer that India has a lot of innovative and talented people, yet we hardly see a global known product coming out from India. What are the things that we are missing? Is it inadequate products or inadequate marketing? Mudit, I agree with you. We have a lot of innovative, talented people, and we have a shortage of good global products. There are few that are emerging. Fusion charts, then we have several other SaaS players that are Freshdesk is another example. Zoho is there for some time, which has been making noise in the international scene for quite some time. But we don't have a lot of such examples. My submission is that it has got to do with marketing and not the product development angle. And when I say marketing, it is about identifying the right customer, reaching out to them, understanding the pain that they have, and sort of tailoring the solution that we have to the problem that they have, and positioning it right to that customer. All of these elements is what is missing as compared to our global counterparts. Harsha asks question: customer-centric, product-centric, or engineering-centric? Which one of these would you consider as best approach to start with? Well, I just sort of said it a couple of minutes ago, and it's important to be customer-centric because that will allow you to sort of do faster progress before your resources run out, such as time, money, or patience. What is your opinion on companies adapting persuasive design or human factors, that is, using psychological principles to influence persuasion, emotion, and trust in customers? Well, companies that take advantage of the emotional element in designing products are able to delight them that much more better, and they are very effective on crafting the right kind of solution. Also, when they are thinking about the problem, they go to the emotional level and find out, what is it that the person really cares. Now, just to give an example, it could be that you are looking for an internet connection, and that's what you care about as a task that you want to do. But the deeper emotion is that you want to get your job done fast, so that you can get so that you can complete your work and spend more time with your family. So when companies work at these emotional level, they understand the inner motivation and are able to now design solutions and position them in such a way that delight happens more frequently. So absolutely, that's one of the best ways to sort of delight customers. How to approach delivering IPs in a software services industry? Now, this is a very interesting and a tricky question. And my 2 cents to it, and take it with a grain of salt, is that these are fundamentally two different businesses, and the more you can keep them sort of not mixed with each other, the better it would be for both of the business to go forward. This requires different mindset and culture, and that's the primary reason I would suggest do it separately. Even if it is the same person, the same set of founders who are behind these two initiatives, if you could go ahead and create two separate entities and get them forward, that would be a better way to sort of manage these two cultures. Otherwise, the culture of the services and the culture of product will be steering the team in two opposite directions, and will be very difficult to sort of manage this tension. Okay. This is a very interesting question. How to protect the idea when interacting with customers? Examples: customers can listen to your idea and can ask as well-wishers to work on that. Now, at the surface level, this looks like a valid concern, but I would say that I haven't come across a case like this. In fact, I would argue this way. Now, if you are going to keep secrets from your customers or market, then the market is going to keep secret from you. The chance of a customer taking your idea and then running away is just absolutely low as compared to the value that you can get by talking to your customer. So, this may be a fear which may not have a lot of grounds for. Consider we built an app and launched. What are the ways we can get returns from it? Now, this is a very specific question. You also asked, this is from Guru Prasad Hegde, can we get money from ads, or there are other ways? Now, mobile apps, there are a lot of ways to monetize them, and also the category of the application suggests that. For instance, if you're building a game application, then one of the pricing model that has worked really well is ads. If you're building a utility application, it could be something like a freemium version that works. There are some really unique and niche apps where you could completely reinvent a very different kind of a revenue model for that. I can think of this example where an app developer in Philippines has created an app on the Android and the iOS market where what the app does is it just changes the currency from the local currency to the US dollars, and he's reached out to a niche set of users who really need that really quickly, and he keeps the most updated rate on the app, and the revenue model that he uses in that case is on a per transaction basis, not on ads or not on even freemium. So the aspect of what's the right revenue model that is going to work for the app is really category dependent, and also these are some things that almost change every 3 months. Now the whole mobile apps industry is like it has an era every 3 quarters, and given that the revenue models also sort of keep changing. The only way to know what revenue model works when is for you to constantly experiment with it and test it out. Okay, now let's look at other questions. Okay, let's look at questions that have not been answered. How can we conclude the requirements of customer in innovative stage? This is asked by Dheeraj Tiwari. See, customer requirements, you talk about it when you're sort of, building to a spec, and there is a fair amount of certainty about the problem. Now, what is being suggested here is when you're not even aware of the problem, so you need to go in with an open mind and sort of be receptive to understand what are the problems that the customer is facing, right? So this is a stage which is before the requirement definition stage, just trying to understand the context and see if the product idea that you're working on is going to resonate with your customer, if at all. So there is this interesting question that Parshuram Hallud has asked. I'll read this out. It says, does all the products invented in response to existing problems in a particular segment? Please justify your answer by taking an example of iPhone. What kind of problems does it address except the ease of usability as compared to other smartphones? still very successful. Parshuram, I think your answer lies in the question itself. You mentioned what kind of problems does iPhone solve? It's really the usability element. When was before iPhone you could think of a smartphone that could be used by women, by old people? It was a complex machine before iPhone was launched. And what iPhone realized was that most of the smartphones in that era are just not usable, and this is the realization that Steve Jobs had, and went ahead and built the product. So the interesting point to note here is it is important to understand the customer's pain point. I'm not just suggesting that you have to talk to him and then only you learn the pain points. You could learn the pain point by observing, and Steve Jobs in this case is an exception. He understood a lot of those pain points very, very intrinsically. So he had the empathy for the customer, and the problem that he solved was, he said, usability, and focusing on delighting users on the usability problem is what made the iPhone very successful. Hope that addresses your question. Okay, let's look at other questions. Okay, so Chandrasekhar Joshi asked this question. Angel funding is what my focus at present. I have my pitch made ready. There are a couple of angel investors who are excited about it. However, when talked about the competition, I found it very difficult to take ahead. I know my product is unique though. Chandrasekhar, what I would suggest is take the views of your customers vis-a-vis your product and your competitor's product. And I think that will give you an insight of how they think your product is solving the problem and your competitor's product is solving their problem, and that will give you a good benchmark of how you can compare, because at the end of the day that is what is going to matter, and not how you are going to benchmark their product with your own. Because remember, it being your baby, you may have a lot of confirmation bias built in on how you do the comparison, and that may perhaps sort of help you in your angel fund discussion as well. What are the things that we need to take care once we start developing a product after taking care of initial studies and risks? Yeah, so after the development of after the aspect of understanding the customer risk, and you're certain that this is you have found a problem that the customers are looking a solution for it. Go ahead and build the absolute basic that you can build and present it to the customer. Have him use it, and then have him give you feedback. Test with the customers if he's going to sort of refer the solution that you have to others that he knows has similar problems, and then kind of build on it, and go to a stage where you can have a sufficient number of people who are using the product. Okay, I think I'm almost out of time. Maybe I have time for one last question. So here is this question: what are the differences between product managers and product marketing managers? Yeah, so these are two roles that a large product company defines. easiest way to look at them is product managers are responsible for the roadmap of a product, delivering the roadmap, and a product marketing manager is the voice of the customer, and he owns the roadmap, and he ensures what should go into the roadmap. A product marketing manager is an outward facing role, and a product manager is more of an inward facing role. Now there could be shades to this definition, but broadly speaking, inward outward facing kind of defines the difference between these two roles. Okay, I think with that my time is up. I'll hand it back to the moderator.
Well, thanks for the insightful presentation, Mr. Rajan. I'm really thankful to you for conducting this webinar. It was indeed a great session. I would also like to thank all our participants for their support in making this webinar a success. The recording of the webinar will be available on techgeek.com by tomorrow. Thank you all. Have a great evening.
Thank you.